Kelly and Scourge had retired into the haven of their dome tents, zipper doors sealed up for the night. She sat all alone as she studied the bits of the past dug up today. It was her favorite time here. The silence, broken only by the occasional hum or chirp of an insect or the sudden flutter of a nightbird's wings. There had never been enough time for silence in her life. And sitting here, surrounded by it, she thought this was exactly how it must have been in this spot centuries ago. She hadn't wanted to come here. In her career, she'd excavated countless Native American sites, but never one belonging to the Comanche. And she wasn't even sure why. Fear, maybe. Fear of discovering a people and a past she'd been isolated from for all her life. Of connecting to it. Of connecting to anything, really. During her last gig, she'd been working for a university. Last semester in Dallas, that had been. No tenure. Temporary position. Her students had referred to her as Solitary McCoy. Behind her back, of course. She supposed she'd earned the nickname. It had made her wonder why she'd become as isolated, as lonely as she had. The nicker of a horse brought Taylor back to herself with a jolt. Her head shot up, her eyes narrowing as she tried to make out the form in the distance, there on the barren ground just beyond the place where the grass gradually ended. Her fingers went stiff, and the pottery piece fell into the brittle grass as Taylor slowly rose to her feet. A magnificent horse danced and pawed where the desert began. A dark horse, with a dark rider. The unnaturally bright light of the gas lantern hanging beside her made it impossible to see details of the man and his horse in the darkness. She could only see that the rider was bare-chested, and that long tendrils of dark hair snapped like flags when the wind lifted them. The horse reared on its hind legs, and she realized the man was bare-legged as well, and wore, perhaps, a loincloth and little else. A chill crept up her nape, and a whisper of the ghost she'd been thinking about, and the one she'd thought she'd seen just before making the decision to come here, danced through her mind. She stood a little straighter, fought her own silly imagination. This was no ghost. "Who is that?" she called, nervously brushing the loose grass and twigs from the seat of her pants. "What do you want?" He sat exactly as he'd been, his hair dancing in the breeze. And she realized with a small shiver that there had been no breeze a moment ago, none that she could feel anyway. She reached for the lamp to turn it off. And then he spoke, and her hand froze in midair. The depth and power of his voice made her shiver. "You desecrate sacred ground, Taylor McCoy." She was trembling now, for no good reason. Who in the name of God was the man? "You're mistaken," she shouted. She forced herself to move, reached for the lamp, but instead of shutting it off, she lifted it, held it high and out in front of her as if she could see his face by doing so. Naturally, she couldn't. "I don't work that way. Look, I was hired to determine whether there is a sacred site here, at the request of the Comanches who own this land." "Do you not hear them?" he said very softly. So softly she was surprised his words reached her ears from where he was. "Hear who?" "The great shamans of the past. They scream in outrage. But there is sacred ground here, woman, but not for your prying eyes to find." Again the horse reared up. She shivered, fought it, heard the rustling coming from the other two tents, knew she wasn't alone. No reason to be afraid. Besides, she didn't believe in ghosts. "And why have I seen two in 1 week?" "Why don't you stop behaving like a lunatic and talk to me about your concerns? You can start by telling me who you—" "Wolf Shadow explains himself to no one." "But I—" His war cry split the night, and as he uttered it, he lifted a war lance high above his head, holding it tight in his clenched fist, the feathers dancing in that breeze she couldn't feel. "Leave here, woman."